What's going on, guys? It's J-Mass, and I'm back again with another dope New England adventure. And the premise of this challenge video is really quite simple. I'm going to be trying to visit as many lighthouses as I possibly can here in the state of Massachusetts in one single day. Now, there are dozens of lighthouses here in Massachusetts, but I'm going to be trying to visit as many as I possibly can in one day. It's going to be a tough one, but I'm interested to see how many we can fit today. Now, this was actually a viewer suggestion. I received this suggestion about a month ago when I did a live stream on the channel. I cannot remember for the life of me who suggested this, but if you are watching this and you're the one who suggested this challenge idea, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. So a couple things I want to mention before we get started with this challenge. Obviously, time is of the essence. I need to be as quick and as fast as possible if I'm going to try to get to as many lighthouses as possible in one day. So as a result, I'm going to be avoiding lighthouses that are really difficult to access, whether it means that they take a long time to get to. I'm especially going to be avoiding lighthouses on islands because those are just way too difficult to reach, especially for this challenge. And of course, lighthouses that are on private property that are prohibited to outsiders. So those kind of lighthouses I'm going to be avoiding for this challenge. It just doesn't make sense. But I am going to be checking out lighthouses like the ones behind me that are very easy to get to, open to the public, and those should make this challenge much more doable. But yeah, guys, with all that out of the way, we are going to get started with this challenge and try to get to as many lighthouses as humanly possible here in the state of Massachusetts in one single day. And we're going to be starting it off here in the city of Newburyport, Massachusetts, located here on Plum Island, with the Newburyport Harbor Light, better known as the Plum Island Light. You can see it directly behind me, beautiful lighthouse. This is going to be our starting point. So from here, let's get started with the challenge and see how many we can hit. Lighthouse number 1 right now. I began the challenge by visiting Newburyport Harbor Light, better known as Plum Island Light. Located on the northern tip of Plum Island in the city of Newburyport, the original iteration of this lighthouse was built in 1788 and was the 13th lighthouse built in the United States. The current lighthouse standing today was built in 1898. Electricity first came to the lighthouse in 1927, followed by full automation in 1951. The tower stands at 44 feet or 13.5 meters tall. This marks lighthouse number 1 of this challenge complete. I got back to my car and began driving towards my next destination, making my way through the dense beach houses on Plum Island and onto the Plum Island Turnpike, enjoying the scenery of the beautiful marshlands. I even drove by the former site of the beloved Pink House, which was sadly demolished in March of this year. Rest in peace. Anyways, I continued westward into downtown Newburyport, ready for my next lighthouse. I arrived at Newburyport Harbor Rear Range Light, which is actually located right in downtown Newburyport, across from the mouth of the Merrimack River. This lighthouse was built in 1873 as one of 2 navigational range lights, with the tower standing at 53 feet or 16 meters tall. The lighthouse was officially decommissioned in 1961, although it is now privately owned, and you can actually make reservations to dine at the very top of it. It's essentially a very tall restaurant now, and the food looks pretty good, I gotta admit. Anyways, this marks lighthouse number 2 complete. Now, as I mentioned before, the previous lighthouse was one of 2 range lights. The other one, Newburyport Harbor Front Range Light, is located directly nearby, also across from the Merrimack River. This lighthouse is significantly shorter, as the tower only stands at 35 feet or 11 meters tall, and was also built in 1873. Unlike its companion, this lighthouse has continued service. It was fully automated in 1952 and moved to its current location in 1964. Sadly, this lighthouse is fenced off and located in a U.S. Coast Guard station, meaning it is inaccessible to the public, but at least I got to view it from afar. Lighthouse number 3 officially complete. I finally left the city of Newburyport, embarking on my first major trek of the trip. It was a 52-minute drive to my next destination, and as I made my way down the north shore of Massachusetts, passing through quaint seaside towns like Rowley, Ipswich, and Essex, I eventually made my way onto scenic Cape Ann. It was still early in the morning by this point, around 8:50 a.m., and I was feeling good about my progress in the challenge thus far. I eventually arrived at Eastern Point Light, located on Eastern Point in the city of Gloucester. This beautiful lighthouse was initially constructed in 1832, although would be rebuilt 2 more times, first in 1848 and once more in 1890. It was fully automated in 1985. The entire focal height of this lighthouse is 57 feet, or 17 meters tall, and the lighthouse is adjoined by the lighthouse keeper's residences. Once again, this lighthouse was fenced off, owned and operated by the U.S. Coast Guard. Still, I managed to get some great angles of the lighthouse, walking around the rocks nearby. There's also a jetty that juts out into the ocean just below it, offering gorgeous views of the surrounding coastline. Lighthouse number 4 of the challenge complete. I got back to my car and began driving once more, weaving through the dense, historic streets of Gloucester before officially leaving the city. This next trip was slightly shorter, at only 30 minutes, and I continued westward on the Yankee Division Highway towards our next lighthouse, driving past the town of Manchester by the Sea and into Beverly. It was now about 9:45 a.m., still leaving me with a lot of time for this challenge. I arrived at Hospital Point Range Front Light in the city of Beverly, in between Mackerel Cove and Beverly Cove. Once again, this lighthouse was one of 2 range lights used for navigation, built in 1871 and fully automated in 1947. The lighthouse's tower stands at 45 feet, or 14 meters tall, with an attached lighthouse keeper's home, built in a Queen Anne style of architecture. Like our last few lighthouses, this one is also owned and operated by the U.S. Coast Guard and is completely fenced off from the public. Parking was also a bit tight for this spot, and there was not much room to get a full glimpse of the lighthouse itself. Nonetheless, lighthouse number 5 is now complete. I now just had a quick 15-minute drive to my next lighthouse, so I swiftly got into my car and left the city of Beverly, driving across the Essex Bridge and into the historic city of Salem. My next stop was on Winter Island, a place I was all too familiar with, having spent many years living in Salem during college. My next lighthouse was Fort Pickering Light, also known as Winter Island Light, located on Winter Island in the city of Salem. This small lighthouse was built in 1871 and has had an off-and-on history ever since. It was decommissioned in 1969, but once again privately relit in 1983. The lighthouse was fully automated in 1995. The focal height of this lighthouse is 28 feet, or 8.5 meters tall, and it stands on the very edge of a rocky coastline atop a large concrete platform. This lighthouse is located in a very scenic area, right on the beach at the entrance of Salem Harbor, offering stunning views of the coast and ocean. Lighthouse number 6 complete. My next lighthouse was a very close drive, as it was also in Salem, so I got into my car and headed downtown, just a few minutes away. Once parked, however, I had a bit of a walk ahead of me. I began striding through downtown Salem, heading towards the Salem Maritime National Historic Site on the waterfront. From there, I began walking down a very long jetty jutting out into the harbor, offering pretty stellar views of the surrounding area. It was a pretty busy summer day, with many tourists walking around me, but I continued onward, getting closer to the lighthouse at the end of the jetty. I eventually arrived at Derby Wharf Light Station in Salem, built in 1871 and automated in the 1970s. It was deactivated in 1977 before being relit in 1983 and serving ever since. This was by far the shortest lighthouse of the challenge, standing at a focal height of only 25 feet or 7.6 meters tall. As mentioned previously, this lighthouse is at the very end of a long jetty, jutting out into the Salem Harbor and offering expansive coastal views. Lighthouse number 7 of the challenge is officially complete. I had yet another quick drive to my next destination at only 16 minutes as I drove into the quaint seaside town of Marblehead. By this point, it was already 11:20 a.m., and I had already visited 7 lighthouses. Needless to say, I was feeling very confident in my abilities so far. Next up, I arrived at Marblehead Light, located on the northern tip of Marblehead Neck within the town of Marblehead. The original lighthouse was built back in 1835, but was deemed to be in poor condition by the 1890s. The current iteration of the lighthouse was constructed in 1895, later automated in 1960. In contrast to the previous lighthouse we visited, this one is by far the tallest of the challenge, at a whopping focal height of 130 feet, or 40 meters tall. It's also unique for its skeletal cast iron pile structure, making it stand out among other New England lighthouses. Situated in the beautiful Chandler Hovey Park, the lighthouse offers sweeping views of nearby coastlines and the ocean, as well as dozens of islands and rocky outcrops. Lighthouse number 8 complete. I got back into my car and began driving out of Marblehead, ready for the long trek ahead of me. My next lighthouse was about an hour and 45 minutes away, and a large part of that time was due to heavy traffic in the Boston area, which I had to drive through regardless as I was heading south. I was also facing a minor dilemma. It was now 12 p.m., and I was absolutely starving. All I could think about was food. Thus, as I braved the Boston traffic and entered into the city, I figured that now was the time to take a quick lunch break. I entered East Boston, struggling to find a parking spot as the day began to quickly slip by me. What's up, guys? It's JMass. I am so hungry right now, I'm not gonna lie. I have not eaten anything today. I'm wicked hungry, and it's already 12:30 p.m., so I figured I'd take a little lunch break right now. I'm currently here in East Boston, and I'm actually going to be trying some Salvadoran food, which I've never had before, but I have a coworker who's from El Salvador, and they recommended me a place here in East Boston. So since I was driving through anyways, I figured why not stop here, get some Salvadoran food. Really excited to try that out. I'm actually walking to it right now, but I will say so far we're doing pretty well. We've already checked out quite a bit of lighthouses on this trip. Hoping to get a lot more lighthouses under my belt by the end of it, but yeah, just taking a little lunch break right now here in East Boston. Gonna try some Salvadoran food, which you'll see me get very shortly, and then we'll continue on with the challenge and hopefully check out many more lighthouses. I ended up checking out Topacio, a local Salvadoran restaurant in East Boston with pretty good reviews. For my meal, I ordered the carne a la vinagreta, which consisted of deliciously tender steak marinated in a sweet and tangy sauce, topped with plump and juicy grilled shrimp. It was truly outstanding. I also ordered the pupusas revueltas, which was a sort of fried flatbread filled with various ingredients like meat and beans. It was very tasty, and I loved the smooth, fried corn taste. Overall, my first Salvadoran meal was excellent, a solid 10 out of 10. The servers were also incredibly nice. Shout out to them for letting me practice my Spanish. My lunch break ended up being slightly longer than I had anticipated, so I was officially back on the road again by 1:25 p.m. My next challenge was to brave the severe Boston traffic, as I still had about an hour to go until my next destination. As I slowly made my way down I-93 towards the South Shore, I couldn't help but become a bit worried about timing. The day was beginning to wind down, and I only had so many more lighthouses I could visit before nightfall. Still, the traffic truly never let up, even once I entered the town of Scituate. I finally arrived at Old Scituate Light, also known as Scituate Light, located on Cedar Point in the town of Scituate. This lighthouse was built in 1811, making it the 11th lighthouse constructed in the United States. Interestingly, this lighthouse played a role during the War of 1812, when two of the lighthouse keeper's daughters warded off a British naval attack in 1814. Over the years, the lighthouse received many lantern replacements and renovations, most notably in 1855, 1930, 1991, and 2022. Unlike the rest of the lighthouses I've visited thus far, This lighthouse is not fully automated and still has an active lighthouse keeper who maintains the bulbs. Unfortunately for me, there was an active wedding going on here when I visited, so I had to try my best to enjoy the scenic views and the lighthouse without getting in the way of the celebration. Congratulations to the newlywed couple, I guess. Anyways, lighthouse number 9 complete. Once I left Scituate and began driving south again, I was truly in for a rude awakening. Not only was my next lighthouse nearly an hour and 45 minutes away, but the traffic was absolutely abysmal. Granted, I was heading towards Cape Cod in the midst of peak summer season on a Saturday afternoon with beautiful warm weather, so I really had nobody to blame but myself. But still, man, this traffic sucked. The gridlock traffic all the way to the Sagamore Bridge was unbearable, and I found myself constantly glancing at the clock as my ETA kept increasing. By the time I was fully on the Cape and out of the bad traffic, it was already 4:50 p.m., and time was running out. Eventually, I arrived at Nobska Light, or Nobska Point Light, located in the settlement of Woods Hole within the town of Falmouth. The original lighthouse was built in 1828, although it was later replaced with the current iteration in 1876, along with the Cape-style lighthouse keeper's home. The lighthouse was fully automated in 1985. The lighthouse has a focal height of 87 feet, or 27 meters tall, and overlooks several important waterways, including Buzzards Bay, Vineyard Sound, and Nantucket Sound. Situated on the southernmost point of Falmouth, the lighthouse grounds offer expansive views of the ocean, as well as glimpses of Martha's Vineyard and the Elizabeth Islands nearby. It truly is a pretty sight. Lighthouse number 10 of the challenge is now complete. After leaving the lighthouse and heading out of Woods Hole, I embarked on yet another long trip, this time at around 1 hour and 20 minutes. By this point, it was 5:30 p.m., and considering the traffic and driving time and how quickly nightfall was approaching, I would be lucky if I hit any more than 2 lighthouses max. Still, I stayed confident and persevered. As I made my way east through several scenic Cape towns like Mashpee, Barnstable, Yarmouth, Dennis, and Harwich, I couldn't help but let my mind wander, wondering where the challenge would end. Also, yes, I did stop for ice cream on the way there. I got a Moose Tracks frap, in case you were wondering. It was delicious. I finally arrived at Chatham Lighthouse, located across from Lighthouse Beach in the town of Chatham. The original lighthouse was constructed in 1808, although the current iteration seen today was built in 1877. Interestingly, the Chatham Lighthouse used to be a twin-range light system with 2 total lighthouse towers, although one of them would be relocated northward, becoming the iconic Newburyport Light in Eastham in 1923. Thus, 1 lighthouse remained, and it was fully automated in 1982. The lighthouse's focal height reaches 80 feet, or 24 meters tall, and also features an attached lighthouse keeper's residence. Once again, this lighthouse was fenced off and closed to the public, and it is located on an active U.S. Coast Guard station. Nonetheless, lighthouse number 11 is complete. By this point, the sun was really starting to set. It was around 7:25 p.m., and I was desperately trying to reach the final lighthouse before nightfall. Lucky for me, the last lighthouse I would visit that day also happened to be in Chatham, and the parking lot was just 12 minutes away. I promptly arrived at Harding's Beach and parked. From there, I began walking down a narrow, sandy trail, marked on both sides by grassy sand dunes. The final lighthouse would require a bit of a walk, roughly 1 mile one way, along sandy terrain. Hey, what's up guys? It's J-Mass again. I'm out here on Harding's Beach in the beautiful seaside town of Chatham, Massachusetts. We are out here in the Cape right now, and it's absolutely beautiful. As you can tell by the colors all around me right now, it is sunset. Darkness comes in about 30 minutes or so, and I'm trying to get to our very last lighthouse before nightfall. So it's basically a race against the clock at this time, but I am enjoying my walking among the sand dunes here in Hardings Beach in Chatham. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm trying to get to the very last lighthouse of the video. It's going to be the Stage Harbor Lighthouse. Unlike most of the lighthouses in this video, you know, I've just like pulled up to them with my car, or at most it's been like a 2-minute walk. Well, this one is a little longer. I believe it's a mile or two out. So I actually had to park further back there. And now I'm just going for a bit of a walk, trying to make it before nightfall comes. But it is kind of nice ending off the video with a bit of a excursion to get to the last lighthouse, Stage Harbor Lighthouse here on Hardings Beach in Chatham, Massachusetts. So yeah, join me as I make my way over. I do see it in the distance, but we still have a bit of a ways to go. Let's see if we can make it before nightfall. I continued onward, walking east towards the tip of Hardings Beach, all while the sun began to set behind me, painting the sky with vibrant reds, oranges, and yellows. Although walking on the sandy trail was a bit tough at times, I could see the lighthouse getting closer to me, and I knew that I would arrive in only a matter of minutes. Just before nightfall, I officially arrived at my final lighthouse of the day, Stage Harbor Light, located on Hardings Beach in Chatham. Originally built in 1880, it only operated for a couple decades before being decommissioned in 1933, never used again. It was replaced by a nearby skeleton tower, which stands at 200 feet or 60 meters tall, actively sending navigational signals to this day. Meanwhile, Stage Harbor Light itself stands at a focal height of 42 feet or 13 meters tall, with a lighthouse keeper's home adjoining it. The lighthouse is entirely a private residence, and I was thus unable to get up close to it, since the whole property was fenced off. Still, the site offered gorgeous views of the sand dunes and ocean waves. Lighthouse number 12, the final one of the day, is complete, which also means that the challenge is complete. Wow, we officially did it, guys. We spent the entire day today driving all along the Massachusetts coastline, visiting as many lighthouses as we possibly could. And it really was a long day. I mean, I woke up at like 5:30 a.m. today, got over to Newburyport by 7 a.m., and now it's nearly 8 p.m. And this entire time I've been driving along the Massachusetts coastline, visiting several lighthouses, and it was a blast. Had a lot of fun doing it, but it definitely was a long day with a lot of driving. But that brings our grand total to 12 lighthouses. In total, we visited 12 lighthouses all along Massachusetts' coastline. Absolutely crazy. Now, I'll admit I did expect a little more than that. I had pretty lofty ambitions, I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of hoping we'd end the day at the very tip of Cape Cod in Provincetown. That was my hope, but again, kind of a lofty ideal. We ended here in Chatham, Massachusetts, which is still pretty good. We still ended up right on the arm of Cape Cod. But it was a great time. And before we end off the video, I will just get into the logistics of the trip and what kind of happened, how I felt about it. So I basically rambled incoherently for 6 minutes about random logistical aspects of the challenge, so instead of boring you guys to death here, I'll just keep it brief. Some of the biggest challenges I faced today were as follows. Firstly, the extreme traffic. Considering that it was a nice summer weekend, traffic along the coast was brutal, eating into my overall time, which definitely limited my ability to get to certain lighthouses faster. I guarantee that if I did this on, say, a cold winter's day, I could have added another lighthouse or two to the list. Secondly, most of these lighthouses required paid parking, meaning that I spent quite a bit of money on parking to actually access them and get the footage and photos I needed. I'd say roughly half of the lighthouses I visited today charged for parking, and these parking fees were unanimously expensive. Thirdly, I had to make spur-of-the-moment decisions on what lighthouses to visit or avoid. I had many other lighthouses on my list that I could have gone to instead, but ignored them for various reasons. For an example, I rejected visiting Annisquam Harbor Light in Gloucester because it was too difficult to reach in a timely manner. Although it is accessible to the public, it is surrounded by private residences with no parking lot, so I would have had to park very far away and walk along the coast. Another example is Plymouth Light, which I found out was inaccessible to cars last minute while on the road. Lastly, I was hoping to end the day in Provincetown, but I think I very quickly realized that was a pipe dream and impossible to do before nightfall on a busy summer day. I partially also blame my lunch break, which went on much longer than expected, a little over an hour. It's overall a very time-consuming challenge. Alright guys, I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible. Hey, thank you guys for joining me. I've been J-Mass as always, and this has been another dope New England adventure. And this challenge was a lot of fun. We started all the way up north in the city of Newburyport, made it all the way down here to the Cape in Chatham, Massachusetts, and we spent the entire day trying to visit as many lighthouses as humanly possible in this state. And I think we did a pretty good job. 12 total lighthouses, starting in Newburyport, ending in Chatham. That's a pretty good run. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys had a lot of fun as well. As always, my name is J-Mass. If you love urban exploration, checking out abandoned sites, traveling New England and beyond, I'm always doing that on this channel, so feel free to subscribe to the channel. Major shout out to all my channel members right here. You guys are awesome, and I'd love it if you too, a viewer of this video, would consider becoming a channel member as well. Or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. And for the very first time in J-Mass channel history, I'm going to assign you guys with a homework assignment. That's right, I'm giving you guys a homework assignment. Your homework assignment after watching this video is to go visit a beautiful beach this summer. I don't care where it is, I don't care what you do, I don't care when, but by the end of the summer, I expect you all to go to a beautiful beach because look at this. I mean, man, it's beautiful. Oh, I love it. Okay, guys, I've been J-Mass as always. I'll catch you later. 12 lighthouses here in Massachusetts. Had a great time. See ya.